They say love conquers all, but they never warn you about what happens when love turns into calculated murder. My name is Darius, and 6 months ago, my own wife tried to pull the plug on my life support while I lay there, helpless, listening to every word. She thought I was brain dead, but I heard her planning my funeral with her lover, discussing my life insurance with her father, and whispering about how clean everything would be once I was gone. What she didn't know was that I was wide awake, trapped in my own body, recording every betrayal in my mind. They wanted me erased for convenience and cash, but sometimes the dead come back to collect what's owed. If you're watching this story of betrayal and revenge, hit that subscribe button and tell me where you're watching from, because you're about to witness how a man who was supposed to die quietly ended up rewriting his will and changing everything. The wrench slipped from my hand and clattered onto the concrete floor of the city garage. That should have been my first warning. But deadlines don't wait for bad feelings, and the city shuttle needed to be back on the road by evening rush hour. Coffee's getting cold, D. Tasha called from across the bay, her voice echoing off the metal walls. She held up a steaming cup and shook her head at me. You've been staring at that engine like it owes you money. I picked up the wrench and forced a smile. Just thinking. About tonight? She walked over, her work boots clicking against the floor. Tasha had been my friend since I started working for the city 3 years ago. She could read me better than most people. That fancy dinner thing with your wife? I nodded, tightening a bolt that didn't really need it. The truth was, I dreaded these events. Vivian's world felt like walking through a museum where I wasn't supposed to touch anything. Her friends smiled at me with their lips, but not their eyes. They called me fascinating and asked about my background, like I was some exotic animal they'd never seen up close. My phone buzzed against my hip. A text from Vivi. Don't embarrass me tonight. Wear the navy suit, not the black one. I stared at the message, feeling that familiar knot in my stomach. 3 years of marriage, and she still talked to me like I might show up in overalls and work boots to her father's country club. Everything good? Tasha asked, reading my expression. Yeah. I shoved the phone back in my pocket. Just Vivi being Vivi. The shop phone rang, cutting through the morning quiet. Our supervisor Larry picked it up, his face going tight as he listened. When he hung up, he looked straight at me. Cole, we got a problem. That shuttle you worked on yesterday? It's making weird noises. City needs it fixed by 5, no excuses. I glanced at the clock. 10:30 a.m. Plenty of time if nothing went wrong. But something about Larry's tone made my skin crawl. I can stay late if needed, I offered. No, no, just get it done. Fast, real fast. Tasha stepped closer to me. Don't rush safety checks, D. I don't care what Larry says. I nodded, but Larry was already walking away, talking fast into his phone. Something about budget cuts and overtime approval. The city had been pushing us hard lately, wanting more work with less time and fewer people. The shuttle was a mess. The engine made a grinding sound that meant serious trouble. I spent 2 hours just figuring out what was wrong. By noon, I had parts spread across 3 work tables and grease under my fingernails that wouldn't come out for days. My phone rang. Mom, hey baby. Loretta's voice was warm and steady, like it always was. You still coming by after work? I made that cornbread you like. Wouldn't miss it, Mom. Good. And bring that wife of yours if she wants. I don't see her enough. I almost laughed. Vivi hadn't been to my mother's house in 8 months. She always had excuses. Work meetings, charity events, headaches. The truth was simpler than that. My mother's modest home in the old neighborhood didn't fit with Vivi's image of herself. I'll ask her, I lied. You sound tired, Darius. Just a long day ahead. Nothing I can't handle. I know you can handle anything, baby, but that don't mean you should have to handle everything alone. After we hung up, I stood there for a minute, holding my phone. Mom had a way of cutting through all the noise and getting straight to the heart of things. She'd raised me by herself after my dad died when I was 12, worked 2 jobs, kept me in line, made sure I graduated high school and learned a trade. She never had much money, but she had something Vivi's family couldn't buy: dignity. Yo, D. Tasha's voice snapped me back to the present. You gonna fix that engine or marry it? I laughed and got back to work. But the grinding sound was worse now. Whatever was wrong, it was getting worse fast. By 3 o'clock, I knew what the problem was. A bearing in the transmission was about to fail completely. If it went while the shuttle was carrying passengers, people could get hurt. The right fix would take 6 hours. The quick fix might last a week. Larry appeared at my shoulder like a bad smell. How we looking, Cole? The bearing's shot. I need to replace the whole assembly. How long? 6 hours? Maybe 7? His face went red. 6 hours? The city's breathing down my neck about this thing. Can't you just patch it? Larry, if this thing fails with people on it, can you patch it or not? I looked at the engine, then at him. I can make it work for now, but it's not safe long term. Then patch it. We'll do the real fix next week. Every instinct I had told me to walk away, to call in sick, to let someone else make this choice. But I thought about the city workers who depended on this shuttle to get to their jobs. I thought about my paycheck and Vivi's expensive tastes and the mortgage on our downtown condo. I thought about everything except what I should have been thinking about: myself. All right, I said, but I'm putting it in writing that this is temporary. Sure, whatever you need. Tasha appeared beside me as Larry walked away. She'd heard the whole thing. Don't do it, Dee. That man don't care if you get hurt. I'll be careful. Careful don't matter when the equipment's bad. You know that. She was right. I did know that. But knowing something and doing something are different things entirely. I spent the next hour rigging a temporary fix. The bearing was accessible if I lifted the engine compartment and worked from underneath. It meant lying on my back while 2 tons of metal hung over my chest, but the lift was solid. I'd done it 100 times. At 4:30, I was under the shuttle with my tools, sweating in the confined space. The temporary bearing was almost in place. Just a few more minutes. That's when I heard the sound that every mechanic fears: the slow groan of metal under stress. I looked up just in time to see the lift mechanism starting to fail. The shuttle was settling, slowly at first, then faster. I rolled to my left, trying to get clear, but my tool belt caught on something. For one terrible second, I was stuck. The last thing I remember was Tasha's scream and the weight of the world pressing down on my chest. Then, everything went black. I floated in darkness for a long time. Sometimes there were voices, distant and unclear. Sometimes there was pain, sharp and immediate. Mostly, there was nothing. The first clear thing I heard was a man's voice saying, "Severe trauma to the chest and abdomen. We need to keep him stable." Then, a woman's voice, soft and professional. "Sir, can you hear me? You're in an ambulance. We're taking you to the hospital." I tried to answer, but my mouth wouldn't work. I tried to move, but my body felt disconnected, like I was operating it by remote control with dead batteries. The voices faded again. Bright lights, cold air, the squeak of wheels on linoleum, people in scrubs moving fast, talking in medical terms I didn't understand. Someone cut my clothes off. Someone else stuck needles in my arm. "Get his wife on the phone," someone said. Wife? Vivi? She'd be at work, probably in a meeting, probably annoyed at being interrupted. I tried to speak, to tell them to call my mother instead, but no sound came out. The darkness pulled me back under. When I surfaced again, I was in a different place. Quieter, dimmer, machines beeping steadily, the smell of antiseptic and floor cleaner. I could hear better now, Even though I still couldn't move or speak, my body felt heavy, like I was wearing a lead blanket. Extensive internal injuries, a doctor was saying. We've stopped the bleeding, but the next 24 hours are critical. What does that mean exactly? That was Vivi's voice, crisp and businesslike. It means we wait and see. His body needs time to heal. And if it doesn't heal, a pause. Let's focus on the positive for now, Mrs. Cole. I heard footsteps moving away, then Vivi's voice again, quieter now. How long before we know for sure? Mrs. Cole, I understand this is scary. I'm not scared, I'm practical. I need to know what we're dealing with. The way she said, we, made my skin crawl, even though I couldn't feel my skin. Give it a few days, the doctor said. Sometimes patients surprise us. After he left, I heard Vivi making phone calls. The first one was to her father. Daddy, it's me. Yes, he's stable. No, they don't know anything yet. A long pause. I know. I know what you said about this marriage. Can we not do this right now? The second call was to someone named Caleb. It's bad, she said, her voice different now, softer, more familiar. I don't know how long he'll be. Yes, I'm scared too. Caleb, I knew that name. He worked with Vivi's company, some kind of advisor or consultant. I'd met him at a few parties. Tall, confident, the kind of guy who wore expensive suits and talked about wine like it was literature. The kind of guy Vivi's father probably wished she'd married instead of me. I miss you too, Vivi whispered, but not over the phone. Not here. My heart would have been racing if I could feel it. Instead, I just lay there, trapped in my own body, listening to my wife tell another man she missed him while I fought for my life 10 feet away. The third call was short. Loretta, it's Vivian. Yes, there's been an accident. He's at General Hospital, intensive care. She hung up without giving details or waiting for questions. Hours passed, maybe days. Time felt strange when you couldn't see the sun or feel hungry or thirsty. The machines kept beeping. Nurses came and went, checking things, writing notes. Late one night, I could tell because the hospital got quieter. My mother arrived. Where is he? I heard her ask at the nurse's station. Are you family? I'm his mother. I'll need to check with his wife first. Check with his wife? I'm his mother. A new voice joined the conversation, younger, with a slight accent. Mrs. Cole, I'm Nina, one of the ICU nurses. Let me help you. I heard footsteps, then my mother's voice, much closer. Oh, baby, what did they do to you? Her hand found mine, warm, familiar, steady. She didn't say anything else for a long time. She didn't need to. Her presence filled the room like sunlight. Then I heard other voices approaching. Vivi, talking to someone with a deep, commanding voice. The family is here, Vivi said, her voice back to that crisp, professional tone. Which family would that be? My mother asked, standing up. Loretta? Vivi's voice was polite but cold. Thank you for coming. Thank me? He's my son. Of course. I just meant, this is my father, Marlon Harrow, Vivi interrupted, and our family advisor, Caleb Wynne. I felt the room change, temperature. Three people in expensive clothes looking down at one woman in a nurse's uniform who'd worked a double shift before rushing to her son's bedside. Mrs. Cole, Marlon's voice was smooth and dismissive. This must be very difficult for you. It's difficult for all of us, my mother replied. Yes, well, these situations are always complex, especially when they involve such different worlds. The way he said different worlds made it clear what he meant. His world and my world. Rich and poor, white and black. The kind of people who mattered and the kind who didn't. There's nothing complex about it, my mother said quietly. My son is hurt. I'm here for him. Of course, but Vivian is his wife now. She has to make the difficult decisions. What difficult decisions? A pause. Then Vivi's voice, careful and measured. The doctors say the next few days will tell us a lot about his prospects. His prospects for what? For recovery. For having any kind of meaningful life. My mother was quiet for so long I thought maybe she'd left. Then she spoke, her voice steady as a rock. My son has always had a meaningful life. That didn't start when he married your daughter, and it won't end because of some accident. Mrs. Cole, Caleb's voice was smoother than oil. No one's suggesting otherwise. We're all on the same side here. Are we? Another long pause. Then, footsteps moving away from my bed. Vivienne, Marlin said quietly, we should discuss the practical matters. Privately. What practical matters? My mother asked. Medical decisions, legal concerns. These are family matters. I am family. You're his mother. Vivian is his wife. There's a difference in terms of legal authority. I wanted to scream. I wanted to sit up and tell them all to get out, to leave my mother alone, to stop talking about me like I was already dead. But I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I could only listen as they decided what my life was worth. We'll be in the family conference room, Vivi said. If the nurses need anything, they left. My mother stayed. She pulled her chair closer to my bed and took my hand again. Don't you listen to them, baby, she whispered. Don't you let them decide who you are or what you're worth. You hear me? You've got fight in you. You've always had fight in you. She was quiet for a while, then started humming softly. A song she used to sing when I was little and couldn't sleep. Something about holding on when the road gets rough. I tried to squeeze her hand, tried to let her know I could hear her, but my fingers wouldn't cooperate. I know you're in there, she said. I know you're listening, and I'm going to make sure nobody gives up on you. Not the doctors, not the nurses, and especially not that wife of yours. Nina's voice came from the doorway. Mrs. Cole, visiting hours are almost over. I'm not leaving him. You can stay. I just wanted to check on him and on you. Nina came into the room, and I felt her gentle hands checking my pulse, adjusting something connected to my arm. How long have you been a nurse? My mother asked. 8 years, 4 here in ICU. You ever seen anything like this before? Trauma like your son's? Yes. Recovery is possible. It takes time, and it's different for everyone. His wife seems to think it's hopeless. Nina was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was careful. Sometimes family members process these situations in different ways. Some people hope for the best. Some people prepare for the worst. And some people, my mother said quietly, see opportunity where they should see tragedy. Nina didn't respond to that, but I heard her moving around the room, staying busy longer than she needed to. When she finally left, my mother leaned close to my ear. I don't know what's going on with Vivi, baby, but something's not right. You stay strong, you hear me? Stay strong and stay awake. I got a feeling you're gonna need to be awake for what's coming. She was right, but even she couldn't have imagined how right she was. In the deep part of the night, when the ICU was quiet except for machines and the soft footsteps of nurses, I heard them coming back. Vivi, Marlin, and Caleb talking in low voices they thought no one could hear. The longer this drags on, Marlin was saying, the messier it gets. I understand that, Daddy, but I can't what? Make a merciful decision? Vivian, this isn't about him anymore. This is about you, your future, our family's reputation. What are you saying exactly? Vivi asked. I'm saying that sometimes the kindest thing is to let someone go, especially when holding on only prolongs suffering. For who? Caleb added quietly. For him or for you? They were talking about my life like it was a business decision, like I was a problem that needed to be solved rather than a person who needed to be saved. The doctors said, Vivi started. The doctors don't know him like you do, Marlon interrupted. They don't know what kind of life he'd want, what kind of dignity he'd expect. That's right, Caleb said. And they don't understand the practical realities, the financial burden, the emotional cost. Financial burden. The words hit me like a physical blow. They weren't talking about my medical bills, they were talking about me, about what it would cost to keep me alive. I know this is hard, Marlon continued, but someone has to think clearly here, and that someone is you. What about his mother? Vivi asked. What about her? She's emotional. She's not thinking rationally. She doesn't understand what's best for anyone. She loves him. Love isn't always enough, sweetheart. Sometimes love means letting go. I heard footsteps approaching my bed. Then Vivi's voice, closer now. He looks so different, smaller. The machines are keeping him alive, Caleb said gently. But that's not the same thing as living. Once he's gone, Marlon said so quietly I almost missed it. Everything gets clean again. Simple. Clean, simple. Like I was a mess they needed to tidy up. I need time to think, Vivi said. Of course, but don't take too long. The longer we wait, the harder it becomes for everyone. They left again, but their words stayed with me. I finally understood what was happening. This wasn't about my medical condition or my prospects for recovery. This was about money and convenience and getting back to a life where I wasn't a complication. My wife, the woman I'd loved enough to ignore all the warning signs, all the small cruelties, all the ways she made me feel less than, was planning to kill me. And she was calling it mercy. The night shift was different, quieter. The harsh fluorescent lights dimmed to a soft glow, and the constant chatter of day staff faded to whispers and soft footsteps. That's when Nina became my lifeline. She talked to me like I was awake, like I was a person instead of a problem. Good evening, Darius, she said, checking the machines around my bed. How are we feeling tonight? She had a slight accent I couldn't place. Her hands were gentle when she adjusted my blankets or checked my pulse. Unlike everyone else, she didn't talk over me or around me. She talked to me. Your mother brought you pictures, she said, holding something up where I could see it if my eyes were working. Look at this one. You at graduation? Very handsome. She's proud of you. I tried to focus on her voice, to use it as an anchor in the floating darkness of my mind. She also brought your favorite candy, peppermints. I put them right here on your table, for when you wake up. When, not if, that small word meant everything. I've been a nurse for 8 years, she continued, and I've learned to listen for things the machines can't measure. Breathing patterns, tiny movements, the way someone's body responds to familiar voices. She paused in her work, and I felt her eyes on my face. I think you're listening, aren't you? My heart rate monitor picked up slightly. Nina noticed. That's what I thought. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Your wife was here earlier with her father and that other man. They seemed very concerned about your condition. She was choosing her words carefully, but I heard what she wasn't saying. Sometimes families disagree about treatment options. It's normal to be confused or scared, but Darius, if you can hear me, you should know that your mother is fighting for you. She hasn't left this hospital except to shower and change clothes. Nina moved closer, pretending to check something on my IV line. I'm going to try something, okay? If you can hear me, really hear me, try to move your right index finger. Just the smallest movement. I focused every ounce of energy I had on that finger. For what felt like hours, nothing happened. Then, finally, the tiniest twitch. Oh my God! Nina's voice was barely audible. Do it again. Another twitch, smaller this time because the effort exhausted me. Okay, okay. Listen to me very carefully. I need you to be patient and careful. Don't let anyone know you're aware yet. Not until we figure out what's really happening here. She straightened up as footsteps approached in the hallway. Mrs. Cole, a different nurse's voice. Your wife is back. Nina squeezed my hand quickly. Remember what I said, she whispered. Vivi's heels clicked against the floor as she entered the room. She'd changed clothes since earlier. Gone was the business suit, replaced by a soft sweater and jeans. The grieving wife costume. Any change? She asked Nina. His vitals are stable. Brain activity is good. These things take time. How much time? Every patient is different. Some wake up in days, some take weeks, and some never wake up at all. Nina was quiet for a moment. Some. But your husband is young and strong. His body is fighting. Is it though? Or is it just existing? I felt the temperature in the room shift. Nina's voice became more careful. Mrs. Cole, I understand this is difficult. Do you? Do you understand what it's like to see someone you love trapped like this? To know they might never be the same person again? I've seen many recoveries that surprised everyone. And how many vegetables? How many people who wake up but never really come back? The word vegetables hit me like a slap. She was talking about me like I was produce that had gone bad. I prefer not to think in those terms, Nina said firmly. Well, I have to think in those terms. I have to make decisions based on reality, not hope. Vivi moved closer to my bed. I felt her presence, smelled her perfume, the same expensive scent she'd worn on our wedding day. Hi, baby, she said softly, her voice completely different now. I'm here. I'm right here. Her hand touched my cheek, warm and familiar. For a second, I almost forgot everything I'd heard. This was the woman I'd fallen in love with, the woman who'd made me believe I could be part of her world. The doctors say you might be able to hear me, she continued. I hope you can't. I hope you're somewhere peaceful, somewhere far away from all this. Her thumb traced along my jawline. Because if you can hear me, if you're trapped in there, that would be the cruelest thing of all. She leaned closer, her lips near my ear. I want you to know that everything I do from here on out, I do because I love you, because I can't bear the thought of you suffering. Love. She kept using that word, but I was starting to understand it meant something different to her than it did to me. Mrs. Cole, Nina said quietly, maybe you should get some rest. You've been here all day. I'm fine. Your father and Mr. Wynne are in the waiting area. They seem concerned about you. They can wait. But after a few more minutes, Vivi kissed my forehead and left. Nina waited until her footsteps faded down the hall. She's gone, Nina whispered. Can you move your finger again? I managed another small twitch. Good. Now listen. I've been watching your wife and her family. Something doesn't feel right. The way they talk about your prognosis, the questions they ask. It's not like other families. She paused, checking to make sure we were alone. Most families want to know about recovery timelines, therapy options, what they can do to help. Your wife keeps asking about legal procedures, about who makes medical decisions if you can't. My blood felt like ice water. I think you need to stay quiet about being aware until we can figure this out. Can you do that? Another finger twitch. Your mother will be back in the morning. She's been sleeping in the family lounge because she doesn't want to leave you. That woman loves you something fierce. Nina finished her checks and started to leave, then turned back. One more thing. If you're in danger, if someone tries to hurt you, make as much noise as you can with these machines. Change your breathing, speed up your heart rate, anything. The monitors will alert the whole floor. After she left, I lay there trying to process everything. My wife was planning to kill me. My mother was fighting to save me. A nurse I barely knew was the only thing standing between me and whatever merciful decision Vivi was building up to. I had to get stronger. I had to find a way to protect myself. But first, I had to survive the night. Around 3 in the morning, they came back. I heard them before I saw them. Hushed voices in the hallway, the soft rustle of expensive clothes. Is anyone else on the floor? Marlin's voice. Just the night nurse. She's doing rounds on the other side. They entered my room like conspirators, moving quietly, speaking in whispers. How long do we have? Caleb asked. 10 minutes, maybe 15, Vivi replied. That's enough time to discuss the basics, Marlin said. Vivian, you need to understand your position here. I understand it fine. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're letting emotion cloud your judgment. I felt them gather around my bed like vultures around roadkill. He's not coming back, Caleb said gently. Even if he wakes up, he'll never be the man you married. Traumatic brain injury, organ damage, possible paralysis. Is that really what he would want? You don't know what he'd want, Vivi said. Don't I? Caleb's voice moved closer. I've seen how he looks at you at those dinner parties, like he knows he doesn't belong, like he's waiting for someone to figure out the mistake and ask him to leave. That stung because it was true. I had felt that way. But hearing him say it, using my insecurity against me even while I lay unconscious, made me want to rip his throat out. He married you, Marlin continued, but he never really fit into your life, did he? Always uncomfortable at social events, always making excuses to leave early. How many times did you have to apologize for something he said or did? Stop it, Vivi said, but her voice was weak. I'm not being cruel, sweetheart. I'm being honest. This marriage was an experiment that didn't work out. It happens. An expensive experiment, Caleb added. Between the medical bills and the long-term care costs, if he survives, if he survives as what? Marlin finished. A burden? A reminder of poor judgment? Vivienne, you're 29 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. I heard footsteps moving around the room. Someone, Caleb, I thought, went to the window. The life insurance alone would set you up comfortably, he said. You could travel, start fresh, meet someone more suitable. Someone who understands your world, Marlin agreed. Someone who can be a real partner in the life you were meant to live. There it was, the real reason. Not mercy, not love, not even practical concerns about my recovery. This was about erasing a mistake, about getting their princess back and pretending I'd never happened. What about his mother? Vivi asked. What about her? Marlin's voice was dismissive. She's nobody. She has no legal standing, no influence, no resources. If you make the medical decision, there's nothing she can do. She could make trouble. How? She's a working class woman with no connections. Who's going to listen to her? The casual cruelty in his voice made me sick. He was talking about my mother, the woman who'd raised me, sacrificed for me, loved me unconditionally, like she was some minor inconvenience to be swept aside. Besides, Caleb added, grief makes people say crazy things. If she tries to cause problems, everyone will understand she's just emotional. Denial is part of the process. The important thing, Marlin said, is that you're seen as the loving wife who made an impossible decision with grace and dignity. The community will rally around you. You'll have all the support you need. I heard fabric rustling, footsteps moving closer to my bed. He looks peaceful, Vivi said softly. He is peaceful, Caleb replied. The machines are doing everything. He's not suffering. Are you sure? Completely sure. This isn't life, Vivian. This is just biology. You'd be setting him free. Setting me free. Like I was trapped in my own body instead of fighting to get back to it. I need more time, Vivi said. Time for what? Marlon asked. To make this harder than it already is? Every day you wait, people start asking questions. Why isn't his loving wife making the compassionate choice? Why is she prolonging his suffering? The doctors haven't given up on him. The doctors don't know him like you do. They don't understand his values, his pride. Would he really want to live as a shell of himself? No, I realized. I wouldn't want that. But I also wouldn't want my wife to make that choice for me based on her father's stock portfolio and her boyfriend's convenience. Think about it logically, Caleb said. What's the best case scenario here? He wakes up, spends months in rehabilitation, never fully recovers, resents you for keeping him alive, and drains your family's resources for decades. What's the worst case? He never wakes up at all, and you're tied to a vegetable for the rest of your life. Or, Marlin said quietly, he wakes up just enough to be aware, but not enough to function. Trapped, conscious, helpless. Is that really more merciful than letting him go while he's still at peace? The picture they painted was horrible and persuasive. If I didn't know I was aware, if I didn't know I was fighting to come back, I might have agreed with them. I'll think about it, Vivi said finally. Don't think too long, Marlin warned. Every day makes this more complicated. And more expensive, Caleb added. They started to leave, but Vivi lingered by. My bed. I'm sorry, baby, she whispered. I'm so sorry it came to this. After they were gone, I lay there in the dark, processing what I'd heard. They weren't just planning to kill me, they were planning to make it look like love. The loving wife, making the hard choice. The grieving widow, supported by family and community. The tragic accident that brought everyone together and reminded them what really mattered. Except what really mattered to them wasn't my life. It was their comfort. I had to get stronger. I had to find a way to fight back. But I also had to be smart about it. If they suspected I was aware, they might move faster. Nina was right. I had to stay quiet and wait for the right moment. But first, I had to make sure there would be a right moment. I had to survive long enough to expose them. The machines around me beeped steadily, monitoring my heart rate, my breathing, my brain activity. As long as those machines were running, I was safe. But machines could be turned off. Decisions could be made. Papers could be signed. Time was running out, and I was running out of allies. Except for one. Nina believed in me. My mother believed in me. And somewhere deep inside my broken body, I still believed in myself. That would have to be enough. Dawn came slowly to the ICU. I could tell because the quality of light changed behind my eyelids, and the hospital sounds shifted from night quiet to day bustle. Nurses changing shifts, doctors making rounds, families arriving for morning visits. My mother's voice was the first I heard clearly. Has there been any change? She asked Nina. His vitals are strong. Brain activity is good. The swelling is going down. That's good, right? It's very good. His body is healing. I heard my mother's chair scrape against the floor as she pulled it close to my bed. Morning, baby, she said, taking my hand. I brought you fresh flowers, daisies from Mrs. Patterson's garden. Remember how you used to pick those for me when you were little? I tried to squeeze her hand, but my strength was gone from the effort of staying alert all night. The nurse says you might be able to hear me. I hope that's true because I got things to tell you. She was quiet for a moment, and I could picture her looking around to make sure we were alone. Something's not right with that wife of yours, Darius. I can't put my finger on it, but something's not right. If only you knew, Mom. She keeps asking strange questions about your wishes, about what you would want if you couldn't, if you weren't. Her voice broke a little. Baby, I need you to know that whatever happens, I'm not giving up on you. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what paperwork they want me to sign. You're my son, and I know you're still in there. I heard footsteps approaching, multiple sets, moving with purpose. Mrs. Cole? A man's voice I didn't recognize. I'm Dr. Martinez. I need to speak with your family about your son's condition. I am his family. Of course. Is Mrs. Cole, his wife, available? She's coming, my mother said tightly. More footsteps, Vivi's heels clicking against the floor, followed by the heavier steps of men in dress shoes. Dr. Martinez. Vivi's voice was composed, professional. Thank you for meeting with us. Mrs. Cole, I wanted to discuss your husband's prognosis and the options going forward. What options? My mother asked. Perhaps we should speak privately, Marlin's voice suggested. Mrs. Cole is his mother, Dr. Martinez said firmly. She has a right to be part of this discussion. Of course, Vivi said smoothly. We're all family here. Dr. Martinez cleared his throat. Your husband has suffered significant trauma, but his body is responding well to treatment. The brain swelling is decreasing, and his other organs are functioning normally. What does that mean for his recovery? Vivi asked. It's too early to know for certain. He could wake up completely and make a full recovery. He could wake up with some deficits. Or he could remain in this state indefinitely. And if he remains in this state, Caleb's voice, then you'd be looking at long-term care decisions. What kind of long-term care? Marlin asked. I could hear the doctor rustling papers, probably reviewing my chart. If he doesn't regain consciousness in the next few weeks, we'd be talking about extended care facilities, feeding tubes, ongoing medical support. For how long? Vivi's voice was carefully neutral. That's impossible to say. Some patients in persistent vegetative states live for years, even decades. Decades. I could practically hear Marlin calculating the cost. Doctor, Vivi said quietly, what would you do if this was your husband? Smart question. Make the doctor complicit in the decision. That's not really my place to say, Mrs. Cole, but I will tell you that families in your situation often benefit from counseling, both about the medical realities and the emotional impact. We're not interested in counseling, Marlin said. We're interested in realistic options. The most realistic option right now is to wait and see. Give his body time to heal. How much time? Caleb pressed. I'd recommend at least 2 weeks before making any major decisions. The brain is remarkably resilient, especially in younger patients. 2 weeks. I had 2 weeks to get stronger, to find a way to show them I was aware, to protect myself from the merciful decision they were building toward. And if nothing changes in 2 weeks? Vivi asked. Then we'd discuss comfort care options. Comfort care. That was hospital code for let him die peacefully. Thank you, doctor, Vivi said. That's very helpful. After Dr. Martinez left, the room was quiet for a long moment. 2 weeks, Marlin said finally. Maybe he'll wake up before then, my mother said hopefully. Maybe, Vivi agreed, but her tone suggested she wasn't planning on it. I need some air, Caleb announced. This is all very overwhelming. I'll come with you, Vivi said quickly. Too quickly. They left together, and I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath. Did you see that? She asked Marlin. See what? The way they look at each other, the way they left together. Vivian is under a great deal of stress. It's natural for her to lean on family friends for support. Family friends? Caleb has been advising our family for years. He's practically family himself. My mother was quiet, but I could feel her suspicion like heat radiating from her body. Mr. Harrow, she said carefully, what exactly do you think is best for my son? What any loving family wants, for him to be at peace. He's not at peace, he's fighting. Is he? Or is that just what you need to believe? The cruelty in his voice was subtle but sharp. He was undermining her hope, making her doubt her own instincts. I know my son. You knew your son. This This isn't your son anymore. This is just a body being kept alive by machines. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time he responded to anything? When was the last time he showed any sign of the man you raised? I wanted to scream. I wanted to sit up and tell him exactly what I thought of his practical approach to my life. But I stayed still, stayed quiet, and listened to my mother's heart breaking. Mrs. Cole, Marlin continued, his voice gentler now. I understand this is difficult, but sometimes the most loving thing we can do is let go. I can't. Even if holding on causes more suffering, even if it means watching him waste away in a hospital bed for years. He's my baby. He was your baby, but he's Vivian's husband now, and she has to make the decision that's best for both of them. Translation: Vivi gets to decide whether I live or die, and my mother gets to watch it happen. I want to see a different doctor, my mother said, suddenly. I'm sorry? I want a second opinion about his condition, about his chances. Mrs. Cole, Dr. Martinez is one of the best. Then a second opinion won't hurt anything, will it? Marlin was quiet for a moment. Of course, though I should mention that insurance may not cover additional consultations. I don't care about insurance. These specialists can be quite expensive. I said I don't care. My mother was fighting for me with everything she had. The least I could do was fight for myself. That's when I decided to take the biggest risk of my life. I was going to try to wake up. Not all the way. Not enough to let Vivi and her family know I'd heard their midnight conversations. But enough to give my mother hope. Enough to buy myself more time. I focused every ounce of energy I had on my eyelids, just a flutter, just enough to catch my mother's attention. Nothing happened. I tried again, concentrating so hard my head started to pound. Still nothing. Come on, Darius. Your mother needs this. You need this. One more time. I imagined my mother's face, her gentle hands, her voice humming the songs from my childhood. My left eyelid twitched. Oh my God, my mother whispered. Darius? Baby? Was that you? I tried again. Another twitch, stronger this time. Nurse, my mother called. Nurse, he moved. His eye moved. Footsteps running down the hall. Nina's voice. What happened? His eyelid twitched. Twice. He's trying to wake up. Nina leaned over me, shining a small light in my eyes. Darius? Can you hear me? If you can hear me, try to do that again. I gathered my strength and managed one more flutter. There, my mother cried. Did you see it? I saw it, Nina said, her voice excited but professional. Let me get the doctor. After Nina left, my mother leaned close to my ear. I knew it, she whispered. I knew you were in there. Don't you give up, you hear me? Don't you dare give up. I wouldn't. Not when I was finally making progress. Not when I was finally finding my way back. But even as relief flooded through me, I knew this was just the beginning. Showing signs of consciousness meant I was valuable again. It also meant I was dangerous. If Vivi and her family realized I might remember their midnight conversations, they'd have to act fast. The race was on. Could I get strong enough to protect myself before they decided I knew too much to live? Only time would tell. And time was the one thing I wasn't sure I had enough of. The next few hours were a blur of tests, questions, and cautious optimism. Dr. Martinez returned with a neurologist who shined lights in my eyes and poked at my feet with sharp instruments. They spoke in medical terms that flew over everyone's heads, but the basic message was clear. I was showing signs of emerging from the coma. This is very encouraging, Dr. Martinez told my assembled family. We're seeing increased brain activity and some voluntary responses. What does that mean exactly? Vivi asked. Her voice was steady, but I caught the tension underneath. It means he's fighting his way back. The next 24 to 48 hours will tell us a lot more. My mother squeezed my hand. Did you hear that, baby? You're coming back to us. I managed another eyelid flutter, and she laughed through her tears. But when I caught a glimpse of Vivi's face through my barely open eyes, she didn't look relieved. She looked worried. After the doctors left, the room cleared except for my mother and Nina. Vivi had stepped out to make some calls, and Marlon and Caleb had gone with her. This is good news, Nina said, adjusting my blankets, but I need to warn you about something. What? My mother asked. Nina looked toward the door, making sure we were alone. Recovery from this kind of trauma can be complicated. Some patients remember things differently than they happened. Some have memory gaps. Some remember everything perfectly. She was trying to tell my mother something without saying it directly. Are you worried about something specific? My mother asked. I'm worried about managing expectations. Your son's wife and her family seem very invested in certain outcomes. My mother was quiet for a moment. Nina, can I ask you something? Of course. In your experience, do families usually discuss insurance money while their loved one is fighting for their life? Nina's pause was all the answer my mother needed. I thought so, my mother said quietly. What should I do? Be here. Be visible. Make sure he's never alone with certain visitors. You think he's in danger? I think he's vulnerable, and vulnerable people need protection. After Nina left for her rounds, my mother pulled her chair close to my bed. Darius, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I know it's not good. That wife of yours, her family, they're not acting like people who want you to get better. I tried to squeeze her hand. This time I managed the faintest pressure. You felt that, didn't you? She leaned closer. Baby, if you can understand me, you need to be careful. Don't let them know how much you can hear or remember until you're strong enough to protect yourself. She was thinking the same thing Nina had told me. Stay quiet, stay safe, get strong. I'm going to be here every minute I can, but when I can't be here, you be smart. You be careful. That afternoon, Vivi returned with reinforcements, not just Marlon and Caleb, but a woman I didn't recognize, tall, polished, with the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. Darius, this is Dr. Patricia Kendall, Vivi announced. She's a specialist in traumatic brain injury recovery. Dr. Kendall approached my bed with clinical detachment. Hello, Darius. I'm going to run a few tests, okay? She spent 20 minutes poking and prodding, asking me to move different body parts, testing my reflexes. I complied when I could, but I kept my responses minimal. Something about the whole setup felt wrong. Interesting, Dr. Kendall said finally. What's interesting? My mother asked. The responses are somewhat inconsistent. He's showing signs of awareness, but they're not sustained or reliable. What does that mean? Vivi asked. It could mean several things. He could be emerging gradually from the coma. He could be having intermittent periods of awareness. Or, or what? Marlon pressed. Or the responses could be mostly reflexive, automatic reactions that don't indicate true consciousness. My mother stood up. That's not true. He squeezed my hand. He looked at me. Family members often interpret reflex actions as intentional responses, Dr. Kendall said gently. It's completely normal. The brain wants to see consciousness even when it might not be there. He's conscious, my mother insisted. Mrs. Cole, Dr. Kendall continued, I understand how desperately you want to believe that, but false hope can sometimes prevent families from making necessary decisions. There it was, the setup. Bring in an expert to contradict the encouraging signs, to make my mother doubt what she'd seen with her own eyes. What kind of decisions? My mother asked. Long-term care decisions, quality of life decisions, the kind of decisions that become harder the longer you wait. I wanted to scream. This woman was basically telling my mother to give up on me, to let Vivi pull the plug before I got strong enough to fight back. I want Dr. Martinez's opinion, my mother said firmly. Dr. Martinez is an excellent physician, Dr. Kendall agreed, but traumatic brain injury is my specialty. I see cases like this every day. And what do you usually recommend? I recommend that families consider all options, including the option of comfort care. My mother was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steel. Dr. Kendall, who's paying for your consultation today? I'm sorry? Who called you? Who's paying your fee? Mrs. Cole, I don't think that's relevant. I think it's very relevant because my son's insurance doesn't cover outside specialists, and I didn't request this consultation. Dr. Kendall glanced at Vivi, who stepped forward smoothly. I arranged for Dr. Kendall to see Darius. I thought we needed the best possible medical advice. From a doctor who's telling us to give up? From a doctor who's giving us realistic expectations. My mother looked around the room at all these people who were supposedly trying to help me. I want everyone except Nina out of this room, now. Loretta, Marlon said, there's no need to be dramatic. Get out. You can't just. I'm his mother. This is his room. Get out. There was a moment of tense silence. Then, Dr. Kendall packed up her equipment. Mrs. Cole, she said as she prepared to leave, denial is a normal part of grief, but it can also prevent healing. So can giving up too soon, my mother replied. After they left, Nina appeared in the doorway. Everything okay? No, my mother said. Nothing's okay, but we're going to make it okay. She turned back to me, taking my hand again. Darius, I don't know if you can understand me, but I need you to fight. I need you to get stronger, because there are people here who don't have your best interests at heart. If she only knew how right she was. That evening, after visiting hours officially ended, Nina came to check on me during her shift change. Your mother had to go home to shower and get some sleep, she said quietly, but she'll be back first thing in the morning. She moved around the room, checking machines, adjusting settings. I've been thinking about what happened today. That specialist your wife brought in? I looked her up. Dr. Kendall has testified in several cases about futile care and the ethics of ending life support. My blood ran cold. She's not here to help you get better, Darius. She's here to provide medical cover for whatever your wife is planning. Nina leaned closer to my bed. I need you to try something for me. If you can really hear me, if you're really aware, I need you to blink once. I focused all my energy on my eyelids. It took enormous effort, but I managed one slow, deliberate blink. Oh my God! Nina's voice was barely a whisper. You are in there. She looked toward the door, making sure we were alone. Listen to me very carefully. I think your wife is planning to discontinue your life support. She's building a case that you're not really conscious, that keeping you alive is cruel and pointless. Another blink. Yes, I knew. Your mother suspects something, but she doesn't have any legal authority. Your wife is your next of kin. Legally, she can make that decision. This was worse than I thought. I'd been so focused on getting stronger, on proving I was aware, that I hadn't considered the legal reality. Vivi could kill me, and it would be completely legal. I'm going to document your responses tonight. Every blink, every finger twitch, everything. If this goes to court, we'll need evidence that you're conscious. Court? Nina was thinking steps ahead of me. But you need to be careful. If they realize you're aware, if they think you might remember their conversations. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Can you move anything else? Your fingers? I tried. After a long moment, I managed to twitch my right index finger. Good. That's very good. Nina spent the next hour running me through simple tests. Blink once for yes, twice for no. Move your finger if you understand. Follow the light with your eyes. I failed some of the tests. My body still wasn't cooperating fully, but I passed enough to prove I was aware, thinking, understanding. This is remarkable, Nina said. You're much more conscious than anyone realizes. That was the problem, though. The more conscious I became, the more dangerous my situation got. I'm going to put together a medical file documenting your awareness, Nina said, but I need you to be very careful about who you show these abilities to. Your mother, yes. Me, yes. But not your wife. Not until you're strong enough to protect yourself. As if summoned by her words, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Nina quickly moved away from my bed and busied herself with routine nurse tasks. Vivi entered the room alone. It was nearly midnight, the same time she'd come with her conspirators the night before. How is he? Vivi asked. Stable. No significant changes since this afternoon. Nothing else? No more of those responses? Some reflexive movements, nothing sustained. Vivi nodded, looking relieved. I think Dr. Kendall was right, Vivi said. What we saw earlier was probably just wishful thinking. It's hard to be objective when it's someone you love, Nina agreed diplomatically. After Nina left for her rounds, Vivi pulled a chair close to my bed. But this time, she didn't put on the loving wife act. I know you can't hear me, she said quietly, but I need to say this anyway. Her voice was different, colder, more honest than I'd heard it since the accident. This isn't how I wanted things to go, Darius. I didn't want you to get hurt, but maybe it's better this way. Clean. Final. Clean. There was that word again. The truth is, I never should have married you. My father was right about that. We're from different worlds, and those worlds don't mix well. She was quiet for a moment, staring out the window at the city lights. I do love you, in my way, but love isn't always enough, is it? Sometimes love isn't even the most important thing. What was the most important thing? Money? Status? Her father's approval? Caleb thinks we should move quickly. He says the longer we wait, the more complicated it gets. But I keep thinking about that first night we met. I remembered that night too. A charity event at her father's hotel. I'd been there fixing the elevator, and she'd been coming back from dinner. We'd gotten stuck together for 20 minutes, and she'd been charmed by my stories about growing up in the city. She'd said I was real in a way most of the men in her life weren't. You were so honest, she continued, so genuine. I'd never met anyone like you. But honesty and genuineness weren't enough to overcome the embarrassment of being married to a mechanic, apparently. My father says I can have a good life after this, that people will understand I'm a young widow who deserves a second chance. Caleb says he'll wait for me, however long it takes, so they'd already planned my funeral and her next wedding. I'm going to make it quick, she said. Tomorrow, I'm going to sign the papers to discontinue life support. Dr. Kendall says it's the most humane option. Tomorrow. I had less than 24 hours to get strong enough to fight back. I'm sorry, Darius. I really am. But this is what's best for everyone. She leaned over and kissed my forehead. For a moment, I felt the love she claimed to have for me, but underneath it was something harder. Relief. After she left, I lay there in the dark, processing everything I'd learned. Tomorrow, she would try to kill me. Unless I could stop her, I had to get stronger. I had to find a way to show them I was aware, conscious, worth saving. But more than that, I had to find a way to protect myself from the people who were supposed to love me. I thought about Nina's words about documenting my responses, evidence for court. That gave me an idea. If I couldn't stop them from trying to kill me, maybe I could make sure they faced consequences afterward. Maybe I could find a way to expose what they'd done, what they'd planned, who they really were. But first, I had to survive tomorrow. I closed my eyes and focused every ounce of energy I had on getting stronger, on healing faster, on preparing for the fight of my life, because tomorrow I would either prove I was worth saving or I would die trying. Morning came too soon and not soon enough. I'd spent the hours before dawn practicing, blinking on command, moving my fingers, trying to turn my head. I was getting stronger, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. My mother arrived early, bringing fresh flowers and a thermos of coffee that smelled like home. "Morning, baby," she said, settling into her chair. "How you feeling today?" I managed to blink once, our signal for yes. "Good, that's good." She looked tired, worried. "Darius, I need to tell you something. Your wife is meeting with the doctors this morning about your care." I blinked twice. No, I didn't want her making any decisions about my care. "I know, baby. I know. But legally, she's your wife. She has the right." I tried to shake my head but only managed a slight movement. "What is it?" my mother asked. "What are you trying to tell me?" I looked toward the door, then back at her. I needed Nina. I needed someone who understood what was happening. "You want Nina? The nurse?" One blink. "Yes." "Okay, let me find her." My mother hurried out of the room, and I was alone with my racing thoughts. Somewhere in this hospital, Vivi was meeting with doctors, signing papers, making the arrangements to end my life, and there was nothing I could do to stop it except get stronger, faster. Nina rushed into the room with my mother close behind. "What's wrong?" she asked. My mother looked around to make sure we were alone, then spoke quietly. "He's trying to tell me something about his wife, about the meeting she's having with the doctors." Nina's face went pale. "What kind of meeting?" I blinked frantically, trying to communicate the urgency. "Darius," Nina said, leaning close, "is she planning to discontinue your life support?" One long, deliberate blink. "Yes." "When?" I looked toward the Si Butuam clock, then back at her. I couldn't tell time yet, but I tried to convey urgency through my expression. "Today?" my mother asked. Another blink. "Yes." Nina and my mother looked at each other. "We have to stop this," my mother said. "I don't know if we can," Nina replied. "Legally, she has the authority." "But he's conscious. He's aware." "I know, but Dr. Kendall's evaluation yesterday contradicted that. It's her word against mine." My mother stood up, pacing to the window. "There has to be something we can do, some way to prove he's aware." "Actually," Nina said slowly, "there might be." She pulled out her phone. "I've been documenting his responses for the past 2 days. Video evidence of him following commands, responding to questions." "Will that be enough?" my mother asked. "I don't know, but it's something." Nina looked at me seriously. "Darius, I'm going to need you to perform for the camera. Can you do that? Can you show everyone how aware you are?" I blinked. Once, I had to. It was my only chance. Nina set up her phone and began recording. "This is Darius Cole, ICU patient, day 4 post-accident. Darius, if you can hear me, blink once." I blinked. "Now, blink twice." I blinked twice. "Move your right index finger." I moved it. "Follow the light with your eyes." She moved a small flashlight back and forth, and I tracked it as best I could. "This demonstrates clear consciousness and voluntary responses," Nina said to the camera. "Patient is aware and responsive to commands." She turned off the recording. "That's good," my mother said. "That's really good." "It's a start," Nina agreed, "but we need more than my testimony. We need a doctor to evaluate him properly." "What about Dr. Martinez?" "Dr. Martinez is good, but he's already deferred to Dr. Kendall as the specialist. We need someone independent." Before my mother could respond, we heard voices in the hallway. Vivi's voice, along with Marlon's and Dr. Kendall's. "They're coming back," Nina whispered. "Remember, don't let them know how aware you are." I closed my eyes and went limp, pretending to be unconscious. The door opened, and they filed in. Vivi, Marlon, Caleb, Dr. Kendall, and Dr. Martinez. Mrs. Cole, Dr. Martinez said to my mother, we need to discuss your son's treatment plan. What about it? Dr. Kendall has recommended transitioning to comfort care, Vivi said. It's the most humane option. Comfort care? My mother asked. We would discontinue the life support measures and focus on keeping him comfortable, Dr. Kendall explained. You mean kill him? Mrs. Cole, Marlon said, this is an emotional time, but we need to be realistic. I am being realistic. My son is conscious. He's aware. He's fighting to come back. The medical evidence doesn't support that conclusion, Dr. Kendall said gently. What medical evidence? You spent 20 minutes with him yesterday. Nina stepped forward. Actually, Dr. Kendall, I have video evidence of the patient responding to commands. Clear, voluntary responses. Dr. Kendall's expression didn't change. Reflex actions can be very convincing, especially to untrained observers. I'm a trained ICU nurse with 8 years of experience, and I'm a neurologist with 15 years specializing in traumatic brain injury. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. I want another opinion, my mother said firmly, a truly independent evaluation. Mrs. Cole, Vivi said, we've already consulted with a specialist. A specialist you chose. I want someone independent, someone not connected to your family. That would delay any decision by several days, Dr. Martinez said. Good. Mrs. Cole, Marlon stepped forward. I understand your reluctance to let go, but sometimes the most loving thing. Don't you dare talk to me about love, my mother interrupted. You've been planning this since the day he got hurt. The room went silent. That's a serious accusation, Marlon said quietly. Is it an accusation or an observation? Vivi tried to regain control. Loretta, I know this is hard, but fighting isn't going to help Darius. Won't it? Because it seems like giving up is what you want. I want what's best for him. No, you want what's best for you. The truth hung in the air like smoke. Everyone could smell it, but no one wanted to acknowledge it. Dr. Martinez cleared his throat. Perhaps we should table this discussion for now. Give everyone time to process the options. How much time? Caleb asked. A few days. Let's reconvene Friday. 3 days. I had 3 days to get stronger, to prove my worth, to find a way to protect myself. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. As everyone filed out of the room, Vivi lingered by my bed. I'm trying to do the right thing, she said quietly. My mother faced her directly. The right thing for who? Vivi didn't answer. She just looked at me one more time and left. After she was gone, my mother collapsed into her chair. 3 days, she said. We have 3 days to save your life. I blinked once. Yes, 3 days to prove I was worth saving. 3 days to expose the people who wanted me dead. 3 days to fight for my life. The race was on, and everything depended on it. The next 3 days blurred together in a desperate race against time. My mother barely left my side except to shower and change clothes at home. Nina worked extra shifts to monitor my progress, documenting every sign of improvement on her phone, and I pushed myself harder than I'd ever pushed before, fighting to reclaim my body piece by piece. By Wednesday, I could move both hands on command. By Thursday, I could turn my head slightly and keep my eyes open for longer periods. The progress was slow but undeniable. I was coming back, but Vivi and her family were getting nervous. Thursday evening, after visiting hours ended, Caleb came to see me alone. He pulled a chair close to my bed and spoke in low, careful tones. Hello, Darius? I know you probably can't hear me, but I wanted to say something anyway. He was wrong about that. I could hear every word. Vivian is struggling with this decision. It's tearing her apart, but she knows it's the right thing to do. Right for who? I wanted to ask. The truth is, even if you wake up, you'll never be the same man she married. The doctors are saying possible brain damage, physical limitations, years of rehabilitation. Is that really what you'd want? What I wanted was to wrap my hands around his throat. Vivi deserves a partner who can be a real husband to her, someone who can give her the life she was meant to have. Someone like you, I thought bitterly. I'm going to take good care of her, he continued. I'm going to give her everything you never could. The kind of life, the kind of respect, the kind of future she deserves. He stood up, looking down at me with what might have been pity. I'm sorry it came to this, but sometimes these things work out for the best. After he left, I lay there seething, the casual arrogance, the way he talked about my wife like she was a prize he'd already won, the assumption that I was already dead and buried. It made me furious, and fury, I discovered, was excellent motivation. Friday morning arrived gray and cold. The meeting to decide my fate was scheduled for 2 p.m. My mother arrived early, bringing reinforcements. Darius, I want you to meet someone. This is Dr. Sarah Chen. She's an independent neurologist who's agreed to evaluate you. Dr. Chen was younger than Dr. Kendall, with kind eyes and a gentle manner. She approached my bed with genuine warmth. Hello, Darius. I'm going to run some tests to see how you're doing, okay? For the next hour, Dr. Chen put me through the most comprehensive evaluation I'd had since the accident. She tested my reflexes, my responses to stimuli, my ability to follow commands. Darius, I want you to squeeze my finger as hard as you can. I squeezed with everything I had. It wasn't much, but it was deliberate and sustained. Good. Now blink 3 times. 3 slow, careful blinks. Excellent. Now I'm going to ask you some yes or no questions. Blink once for yes, twice for no. Do you understand? 1 blink. Are you in pain? 2 blinks. Do you know where you are? 1 blink. Do you remember the accident? 1 blink. Do you want to continue living? One strong, emphatic blink. Dr. Chen smiled. That's what I needed to know. She spent another 30 minutes testing my cognitive functions, my memory, my understanding. When she finished, she looked pleased. This is remarkable progress, she told my mother. He's definitely conscious and aware. What about Dr. Kendall's evaluation? My mother asked. Dr. Kendall saw what she expected to see. Sometimes specialists become so focused on statistical probabilities that they miss individual realities. Dr. Chen packed up her equipment. I'll have my report ready for the meeting this afternoon, but I can tell you now, this man is not a candidate for comfort care. He's fighting his way back, and he deserves every chance to complete that journey. After Dr. Chen left, my mother took my hand. We did it, baby. We got the evidence we needed. But I wasn't celebrating yet. I'd learned not to underestimate Vivi and her family. They'd brought Dr. Kendall to provide medical cover for their decision. They might have other tricks up their sleeves. At 2 p.m., the conference room filled with all the major players in my drama. My mother sat on one side of the table, flanked by Nina and Dr. Chen. Vivi sat on the other side with Marlon, Caleb, and Dr. Kendall. Dr. Martinez sat at the head of the table, trying to maintain neutrality. Thank you all for coming, Dr. Martinez began. We're here to discuss the treatment plan for Darius Cole going forward. Before we begin, Dr. Chen interrupted. I'd like to present my evaluation of the patient. She opened her folder and pulled out several pages of notes. I conducted a comprehensive neurological assessment yesterday. The patient demonstrates clear consciousness, sustained attention, memory function, and decision-making capacity. Dr. Kendall leaned forward. Dr. Chen, what's your experience with traumatic brain injury cases? 15 years in neurology. with a specialty in consciousness disorders. And how many patients have you seen make full recoveries from injuries this severe? Recovery isn't binary, Dr. Kendall. It's a spectrum. This patient is already showing remarkable improvement. But what are his long term prospects? Realistically, Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. It's too early to determine his ultimate level of function, but he's clearly not in a persistent vegetative state and he's expressed a clear desire to continue living. He's expressed a desire? Marlin asked. How exactly? Through responses to direct questions. When asked if he wanted to continue living, his response was immediate and emphatic. Vivi spoke for the first time. But can we trust those responses? How do we know they're not just reflexes? Because reflexes don't answer complex questions accurately, Dr. Chen replied. Your husband is aware, Mrs. Cole. He's thinking, understanding, making decisions. What decisions? Caleb asked. Dr. Chen looked at him sharply. The decision to keep fighting, the decision to live. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Marlin spoke. Dr. Chen, what would you estimate the cost of his care to be over the next year? I'm sorry, what does that have to do with his medical condition? Families need to consider practical realities. Mr. Harrow, Dr. Martinez interrupted, medical decisions should be based on medical factors, not financial ones. Easy to say when it's not your money, Marlin muttered. My mother stood up abruptly. Excuse me? Did you just suggest that my son's life isn't worth the cost of keeping him alive? That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. You're sitting here calculating whether it's cheaper to kill him than to help him recover. Mrs. Cole, Vivi said, no one is talking about money. Aren't you? Because it seems like every conversation about my son's future comes back to cost and convenience. The tension in the room was explosive. Perhaps, Dr. Martinez suggested, we should focus on the medical evidence. The medical evidence is clear, Dr. Chen said firmly. This patient is conscious, improving, and capable of making his own medical decisions. Through eye blinks? Dr. Kendall asked dismissively. Through consistent, appropriate responses to complex questions over an extended evaluation period. In my experience, Dr. Kendall began. In my experience, Dr. Chen interrupted, patients who are written off too early often surprise everyone with their recovery. Vivi looked around the table, realizing she was losing control of the narrative. What if he doesn't want to recover? She asked. What if he'd rather be at peace than struggle through months of rehabilitation that might not even work? Then he can make that choice when he's able to communicate more fully, Dr. Chen replied. But right now, he's telling us he wants to live. He's telling you that through eye movements that could mean anything. Mrs. Cole, my mother said quietly, why are you so determined to believe your husband is unconscious? The question hung in the air like an accusation. I'm not determined to believe anything. I'm trying to be realistic about his condition. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're trying to convince everyone that killing him would be a kindness. Vivi's face flushed red. How dare you suggest? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. You've been pushing for comfort care since the day he was injured. You brought in a specialist who recommended ending his life. You're fighting against the evidence that he's conscious and improving. Because I love him. Do you? My mother asked. Because love doesn't usually look like this. Caleb finally spoke up. Mrs. Cole, you're obviously emotional. Don't you start, my mother warned. You have no business being in this room at all. I'm here to support Vivian during a difficult time. Is that what you're calling it? The room erupted in angry voices, accusations flying, people talking over each other, the careful medical discussion dissolving into family drama. Dr. Martinez finally called for order. Enough. This isn't helping anyone, especially the patient. He looked around the table. Based on Dr. Chen's evaluation, I'm recommending we continue aggressive treatment and rehabilitation. The patient has shown clear signs of consciousness and a desire to recover. I object to that recommendation, Dr. Kendall said. Your objection is noted, but Dr. Chen's evaluation is more recent and more comprehensive. And I support Dr. Martinez's recommendation, Nina added. I've been documenting the patient's progress for days. He's definitely aware and improving. Vivi looked desperate. What about what he would want? What about his dignity? His dignity, my mother said firmly, comes from fighting for his life, not from giving up on it. Dr. Martinez gathered his papers. The decision is made. We continue treatment. Mrs. Cole, your husband will be transferred to the rehabilitation wing next week to begin intensive therapy. Vivi's face went pale. Marlon looked furious. Caleb stared at the table. They'd lost. I was going to live. But as everyone filed out of the room, I knew this wasn't over. People who were willing to kill for convenience wouldn't just accept defeat and move on. They'd find another way. That evening, I was alone in my room when Vivi came to see me. She'd waited until visiting hours were over and my mother had gone home. She pulled a chair close to my bed and sat down heavily. I know you can hear me, she said quietly. Dr. Chen made that pretty clear. I kept my eyes closed, not ready to have this conversation. I need you to understand something, Darius. I never wanted you to get hurt. I never wanted any of this to happen. But you were happy to take advantage when it did, I thought. Things between us haven't been good for a while. We both know that. We've been pretending, going through the motions, but the magic was gone. The magic! Like our marriage was a trick that had stopped working. I met Caleb last year. At first, it was just friendship, but then things changed. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I need to be honest. Too little, too late for honesty. When you got hurt, when the doctor said you might not wake up, I thought maybe it was a sign, a way for both of us to be free without hurting each other. Free for her, dead for me. But now you're getting better, and I don't know what to do. How do I tell you that I don't love you anymore? How do I ask for a divorce when you're lying in a hospital bed? She was quiet for a long moment. Caleb thinks we should wait until you're fully recovered, then have a conversation about our marriage. He says it's the honorable thing to do. How noble of him. But my father thinks... My father thinks differently. He says you'll never forgive me for what happened in this room, for the conversations you might have overheard. My blood ran cold. They knew I'd heard them. He's probably right. If you remember the things we discussed, if you remember the plans we made, there's no coming back from that. Vivi leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. So, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Do you remember what we talked about when you were unconscious? I kept my face perfectly still, my breathing steady. Everything depended on my answer to this question. Because if you do remember, if you're planning some kind of revenge, maybe it would be better for everyone if you just let go. Quietly, peacefully. There it was, the threat wrapped in concern, the suggestion disguised as mercy. I could make it comfortable, she continued. A little something in your IV, maybe. You'd just drift away. No pain, no struggle, no memories of betrayal. She was offering to murder me gently, like that made it better. Think about it, Darius. Think about what kind of life you'd have, knowing what you know. Think about how much easier it would be to just let go. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. I'll be back tomorrow to see how you're feeling about things. After she left, I lay there in the dark, my mind racing. They knew I'd heard their conversations. They knew I was a threat to their plans. And now, Vivi was offering me a choice: die quietly or live with the knowledge that my wife had tried to kill me. But there was a third option she hadn't considered. I could live, and I could make sure everyone knew exactly who she was and what she'd done. The next morning, Nina arrived for her shift to find me sitting up in bed, wide awake and alert. Darius, she gasped, how long have you been awake? Long enough, I said, my voice rough from disuse but clear. Oh my God, you can talk. Nina, I said urgently, I need you to help me with something, and I need you to do it before my wife gets here. She pulled out her phone. What do you need? I need you to help me write a new will, and I need you to help me record a message, because I have a story to tell, and I want to make sure everyone hears it. Nina smiled grimly. What kind of story? The story of a wife who tried to pull the plug on her husband's life support, and what happened when he woke up and changed his will. For the next 2 hours, we worked together to document everything I'd heard, everything I'd experienced, everything I'd learned about the people who were supposed to love me. When Vivi arrived that afternoon, she found me sitting up in bed, fully awake and completely aware. Hello, Vivi, I said calmly. We need to talk. Her face went white. Darius, you're awake, very awake and very aware. She glanced around the room, probably looking for escape routes. How much do you remember? She asked carefully. Everything, I replied. Every word, every conversation, every plan. She sank into the visitor's chair. I can explain. No need. I heard the explanations already. Late night conferences with your father and Caleb, discussions about insurance money and cleanup and how much easier life would be without me. Tears started streaming down her face. Darius, please, let me explain what really happened. I know what really happened. You tried to kill me. When that didn't work, you offered to poison me. Very thoughtful of you to make it comfortable. I never meant for any of this. You meant all of it. You just didn't expect me to wake up and remember. I reached over to my bedside table and picked up a manila envelope. This contains a copy of my new will. The old one left everything to you, as loving husbands do. The new one is quite different. Her eyes fixed on the envelope like it was a poisonous snake. I've also made some recordings, detailed accounts of everything I heard while I was supposedly unconscious. Nina has copies, as does my lawyer. Your lawyer? Turns out, when you're the victim of attempted murder, even by your wife, people take it seriously. Vivi's tears had stopped. Her face was hard now, calculating. You can't prove any of this. It would be your word against mine. Actually, I can prove it. Nina documented your family's conversations. We have video evidence of my consciousness while you were claiming I was brain dead. And we have recordings of you threatening to poison me. Her mouth opened, then closed. You recorded me last night? Modern phones are amazing devices, very sensitive microphones. I set the envelope back on the table. So, here's how this is going to work, Vivi. You're going to leave this room and you're not coming back. You're going to file for divorce, quietly and without drama. You're going to take your father and your boyfriend and disappear from my life. And if I don't, then I go to the police with evidence of attempted murder. I go to the media with recordings of your family planning to kill a black man for insurance money. I make sure everyone in your precious social circle knows exactly who you are. She was quiet for a long moment. What about the money? The house? The investments? What about them? We bought those things together. I have a right. You have the right to whatever a judge decides to give you after I file attempted murder charges. How much do you think that will be? The reality of her situation was finally sinking in. This will ruin me, she whispered. You ruined yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. She stood up slowly, like an old woman. I want you to know that I did love you. At the beginning. I believe you, but love wasn't enough to overcome your father's disapproval and your boyfriend's ambitions, was it? She had no answer for that. Goodbye, Vivi. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. After she left, I closed my eyes and let out a long breath. It was over. The immediate danger was gone, and the people who tried to kill me would face consequences. But more than that, I was free. Free from a marriage that had been slowly suffocating me. Free from people who saw me as less than human. Free to build a life based on my own worth instead of their approval. 6 months later, I was back at the city garage, stronger than ever. The rehabilitation had been hard work, but I'd recovered almost completely. A few lingering aches, a scar on my chest, but otherwise whole. The divorce had gone through without much drama. Vivi had taken a small settlement and moved to California with Caleb. Her father was facing a federal investigation into some of his business practices. Turned out, when people started looking into the Harrow family finances, they found all kinds of interesting irregularities. I was working on a city bus engine when Tasha approached with a grin. Hey, Dee, you got a minute? What's up? Come check this out. She led me to the garage entrance where a gleaming black Lamborghini was parked in the customer lot. Whose is that? I asked. Yours, if you want it. I stared at her. What are you talking about? The insurance settlement came through, plus the compensation from the city for the equipment failure, plus a nice chunk from your ex-wife's family to keep things quiet. How much money are we talking about? Enough for that Lambo, and a house, and pretty much whatever else you want. I walked over to the car, running my hand along its perfect surface. 6 months ago, I'd been a working class mechanic married to a woman who was ashamed of me. Now, I was a working class mechanic who could afford toys that cost more than most people's houses. You know what the funny thing is? I said to Tasha. What? She wanted me dead so she could be with someone who could give her a better life. Now I can afford to give her anything she ever wanted, and she'll never get any of it. Justice is sweet, huh? Justice is complicated, but yeah, it's pretty sweet. I bought the Lamborghini that afternoon, not because I needed it, but because I could. Because I'd survived something that was supposed to kill me, and I wanted a reminder of how far I'd come. Some mornings, when I'm having coffee at the diner near the garage, I see a familiar car drive by slowly, a white Mercedes with California plates, probably a rental. The windows are tinted, but I know who's inside. Vivi comes by maybe once a month, always in different cars, always keeping her distance. I think she's checking to see if I'm still here, still alive, still a threat to whatever new life she's building. The first time I saw her, my heart raced. Fight or flight instincts from those dark days in the hospital. But now, when I see that Mercedes creep past, I just smile and go back to my coffee. She tried to erase me from existence. Instead, she erased herself from mine. This morning, she drove by while I was standing next to my Lamborghini, chatting with my mother before work. Mom was telling me about her new hobby, photography classes at the community center. She looked happy, proud, free from the worry that had consumed her during my hospital stay. The Mercedes slowed as it passed us, and I caught a glimpse of Vivi's face through the windshield. She looked older, sadder, diminished somehow. Success without honor has a way of hollowing people out. I waved, not mockingly, not bitterly, just a simple acknowledgement that I saw her and wasn't afraid. The car sped up and disappeared around the corner. Who was that? My mother asked. Nobody important, I replied. Just somebody who used to know me. She nodded and squeezed my arm. You ready for work, baby? More than ready. We hugged goodbye and I climbed into my car. The engine roared to life, smooth and powerful and completely under my control. As I drove to the garage, I thought about the strange turns life can take. 6 months ago, I'd been a man trapped in his own body, listening to the people he loved plan his death. Today, I was a man who'd fought his way back from the edge and built something better than what he'd lost. Some stories end with revenge, some end with forgiveness. This one ends with something rarer: peace. I'd learned that survival isn't just about staying alive, it's about staying true to who you are, even when everything tries to change you. It's about building a life that can't be bought, sold, or taken away by people who think they know your worth better than you do. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very strong, it's about waking up from a nightmare to discover that your real life was just beginning. The garage came into view, and I could see Tasha already at work, probably wondering where I was. I had an engine to rebuild, friends to joke with, and a life to live. Some mornings, she still sees my Lambo outside the diner, gleaming in the sunlight like a promise kept. And I think that's the closest she'll ever get to my life again, which is exactly how I want it.